Hello, everyone. It's Dr. VanderWel. We are here at Aviva with our live stream. Hopefully, Dr. Tam will be able to join us soon. She's just seen a patient. Said she might be going a little bit long. And thank you for joining us. We are going to be discussing what does it take to get into bariatric surgery? And is weight loss surgery for me? Who qualifies for bariatric surgery? Okay, I'm interested in surgery. What do I do next? Are there any things I need to do to prepare for my surgery consult? So if you have questions or about those things, or really about anything, you're welcome to tune in to put them in the comment section, and we will be happy to address them. So thank you all for all who have joined so far. And right, now we're going live on Instagram. There we go. Great. Okay. I have to send actually an invite to Dr. Tam. When she is done, she will join us. Great. All right, let's get into it. So thank you all for joining. If you have comments, again, just put them in the question and let's get into it. So first topic, who qualifies for weight loss surgery? So that's a great question. There's a few recommendations that we have, like official recommendations from our national, international bodies that help with weight loss surgery. That's ASMBS, the American Society of Metabolic and Bariatric Surgeons, and IFSO, International Federation for Surgical Obesity. Their recommendations are that we do surgery for patients that have a BMI of 35 or greater, or 27.5 or greater if you're of Asian descent and have diabetes, or 30 or greater and have diabetes. There's a couple of other smaller subsets in there, which we won't get too into the weeds on, but the official recommendations for those have really been coming down and down because we have seen how beneficial these operations are for patients that are trying to get healthier, to lose weight, and to keep it off. Edmund, thank you for joining us from Lithuania. So that is different than what an insurance company here in the United States usually approves. So those recommendations are slowly catching up with the official recommendations of our governing bodies. But the most recommendations right now for insurance companies are BMI of 35 with a comorbidity being hypertension, diabetes, sleep apnea, and several other things. Or a BMI of 40 or greater is usually qualification for insurance to cover weight loss surgery. Then there's another layer on top of that, which is that weight loss surgery is only covered by certain insurers at all. And so what happens is that not every insurance, just because you have health insurance, doesn't necessarily mean that everyone has weight loss surgery, the weight loss surgery benefit. It's specifically usually included and purchased by whoever is buying the plan. And so what that means is that the way that logistically looks is that in most cases in America, 50% of patients, you usually have to have about 50 employees or more for that to be a cost-effective measure in your practice, in your business. So it's like 40% of Washingtonians at least have weight loss surgery benefits that have. So it's not bad, but it's not everybody. It's not even the majority. So so that's the official recommendations as far as what the societies recommend. That is what and then we talk about the insurance piece, and then let's talk about outside of those things. So in our practice, we have actually also offered a weight loss surgery to people that are actually outside of some of those recommendations, that have a lower BMI, or usually, or without comorbidities in those BMI ranges, because we have extensive decades of data showing that these tools are really helpful. They're very safe, number one, and they're very helpful for patients to really help with moving forward with their weight loss surgery, with their weight loss. So, so we have patients that are doing really well with all those tools. So, good question. All right, got a bunch of comments here. I'll try to catch up on. Thank you for tuning in your comments. I am 11, bro. Okay. All right, Rima. Well, thank you for joining. Okay. All right. Okay. Put somebody in timeout on the question board. I didn't know that was a thing. Okay. So, next topic let's discuss here is I'm interested in surgery. What do I do now? So it's a great question. And if you are struggling, who should be interested in surgery in general? And that would be Dr. Tan. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you. Sorry I'm late. What are we talking about? What are you talking about?
All right. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Tan. How are you?
Good. I'm fashionably late.
Oh. Maybe that helps, actually.
Can you not hear me?
I couldn't hear you for a second, but I can hear you better now.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I was just saying I'm fashionably late. What have you been talking about?
So I was just discussing who qualifies for surgery and talking about like the official society guidelines, and then outside of the insurance, what insurance usually accepts, and the range of those things, and then the things outside of that. So, if you're doing self-pay surgery and you're like, hey, I'm a BMI of 32 and I have, I may not have diabetes, but I've really been struggling with my weight, and I really can't just seem to move past this. Even sometimes BMI 29, 28, there are procedures that we offer patients that can be really, really helpful for them and really help them make some great progress. So, so I was just kind of getting through some of the questions, and the question section is lively today, which is exciting, but generally not very relevant to what we're talking about.
That's okay.
Patricia Ortiz, so it makes it interesting. So Patricia asked, what kind of surgery are we talking about? We're talking about weight loss surgery. So that's a good question. I didn't really define that. So we're talking about bariatric surgery. So being like a laparoscopic sleeve gastrectomy, a gastric bypass, and then an endoscopic sleeve gastroplasty is another bariatric procedure. And these are procedures that are done under general anesthesia. They're usually able to go home the same day, actually. And what they do is that they significantly alter the physiology and the anatomy of the body that makes it much more conducive for losing weight. And we just kind of describe it as you're working with your body as opposed to against your body with one of these procedures to really make some progress on your weight loss. So I don't know if I'll be able to join your Instagram feed now because it's late.
Yeah. It might be a little tricky. Let me try something.
Just let me know if I need to do something on my side. So.
Anyways, all right.
Yep. All right. Great. Let's see here. So, okay. I think the next question we're going to discuss is, okay, I'm interested in weight loss surgery. What is the next step? Like, what do I need to do? I'd say the first thing to do is just reach out, reach out to our office. The best way to do that is go on avivamd.com, and there's a little contact us form, and you fill that out, and you get the process started. We really try to make it so that we answer your questions as well as we can. We'll probably do an insurance check to see what sort of insurance parameters we're working in. and then kind of figure out what's going to be the best, plan for you going forward, and what sort of the options look like. And really the goal is just to get set up and see one of us. And at that visit, then we'll discuss a lot of stuff. So what do you usually discuss at your consults? I'm sure they're very scary for patients.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of patients are like, well, how do I even go about having bariatric surgery, et cetera, et cetera. So it can feel like a very intimidating thing. Logistically, yes, I think reaching out directly to us is probably the easiest thing to do. You can certainly go through your primary care doctor first and have them send in a referral for you. But if, there's plenty of clinics like ours that have kind of direct access that you can kind of figure out. And then I think
that's actually a good point. First is that you actually don't need a doctor's referral to come to reach out to us at all, which is which I think a lot of people actually don't understand is that they can just really literally go to the website and put in their name, and then we're off.
Yeah. It's not true for like all specialty clinics, right? But it's true for a lot. It's also not true, I would say, for all bariatric surgery clinics, but it's certainly true for ours and a lot of other clinics as well. So, and then, what was I thinking about? Oh, and then I think the other question is like benefits, right? Like, do you have benefits or not? Which is such an opaque, difficult thing that no one understands. I don't understand it. But again, most bariatric surgery clinics, or I would say all bariatric surgery clinics, should be able to help you out with figuring that out as well. My consults, well, for one, I don't think you need to do anything in particular before your bariatric surgery consult. I certainly have patients who come in who are very well educated. They've done a lot of research. They know a lot of folks who've had bariatric surgery. But then I also have the other end of the spectrum where they're like, I don't really know anything about anything. And that's 100% fine as well. Like, we'll take care of you from day one. So either way is fine. Whatever suits your personality, I would say. My typical consults, what I go through like all of your medical history, typically, just like any other doctor's visit, I would say. And then specifically, I like to go through like your weight history a little bit as well. I think it's really helpful for us as bariatric surgeons to kind of understand what you've kind of been through from a weight standpoint up until this point. Like, when did you start struggling with your weight? What has your weight done? Has it kind of yo-yoed, or has it steadily gone up? Or what's been the trend? What's worked for you in the past? What hasn't worked well in the past? That is all really good context, I think, for us to understand things. The thing about bariatric surgery, I would say, again, that's also different from a lot of other doctor-patient relationships, is it is like a long-term relationship that we develop. It's not just surgery. That's really the start of a much longer journey. And so understanding you as a person is really important to me. And then we go over all the different surgery options. And then we decide on a surgery together. And then we talk about next steps. So it's a lot to cover in an hour or however long these visits are. So I usually give people a disclaimer that we go through a lot of stuff.
I have a pretty similar flow too. I always just start with I always congratulate people just for reaching out. It takes a lot of courage, to take that step. If you're out there listening and you're struggling and you're stuck and you feel like you've kind of just been going around and around, and you're just on this hamster wheel of progress, which is to say nothing, or very frustrating. And reaching out for this next step it's scary. It's scary. So I always, like to acknowledge that and just say, it's great that you're here, and it's great that we're gonna take some steps towards this. Then I just kind of hear what they've struggled with, how they got interested in surgery, and then we just learn about them, their medical history, their surgery history. We talk about the options, and I'm really of the mind of hey, I'm not here to sell you anything. Honestly, here's what I do. Surgery is a tool. Like, the endoscopic sleeve is a tool. Medicine is a tool. All these things are really important tools, and all of them have strengths and limitations. And so I just lay them out and I say, hey, here's the pluses of this. Here's kind of the minuses. Here's the plus of this. Here's the minuses. the nice thing about like the procedures that we offer is that, honestly, they have fantastic safety records. They do really well. Patients are usually back to like their lives in like, a week to at least 2 weeks. They're recovering well. Complication rates are super, super low, and it really helps them change their lives. And and you say, hey, which one of these, if any of them, are going to work for you? And some people are like, I just don't even know if I'm there yet. It's like, that's fine. This journey is really important. But the biggest regret that 99% of people that do this operation tell me, like literally the first thing they say is like, what do you wish you would have, if you could do this all over again, what would you do? They're just like, I just wish I would have done this 10 years ago. Like, I wish I would have done this 10 years ago. And that's the key, I think, is that when people know what the tools are and they're ready to use them well and to really embrace what it takes, they're going to be fantastically successful. So, which is cool.
I would say another important, like actually probably maybe the most important thing that I talk about with my patients day of consult, and probably something to maybe spend some time reflecting on if you're preparing for surgery, is like, what do you hope to accomplish with weight loss? Like, what are your big goals that that are going to motivate you for one, and that you want to accomplish at the end of a year or a year and a half after surgery? And for some folks, it's like, I just want to be healthier. I want to be more active. I want my diabetes to go away. Some people have a goal weight in mind. Some people don't have a goal weight. It's all fine. But I like to talk about it so then we can, one, I have that in mind as we move forward. And then two, we can talk about how realistic some of those goals are, how likely we are to accomplish them and things like that. And I think it's just helpful for everyone to have like a frame of mind of, okay, this is what I'm hoping to accomplish, and what I'm hoping to do, because it gives you some motivation too when you're struggling.
Yeah. And realistically understand like what these tools do and don't do.
Yeah. So I feel like I don't know if it's called a pitfall or what, but I do find that some patients, they feel like all of their problems are going to be solved with weight loss surgery, which is a little like, sometimes I do have to pull people back a little bit and be like, I don't know if, your relationship with your mom is going to be fixed by this. Like, this is, it's sometimes it's that can be hard. So
yeah, it's not going to go back in time and fix a lot of things that have happened. It doesn't go, what's interesting, doesn't fix all the things, there's so many things that it doesn't do, but there's a lot of things that I think it's really interesting how it does do. So one of the things I've really started to really try to wrap my head around is, our bodies and our weight and what we are capable of doing and the way we feel really does set the tone, like kind of helps set the narrative for like that story that we tell about ourselves. And what I have really come to appreciate lately is that I've been trying to put my finger on this for a long time. And that is, why is it so cool to be a bariatric surgeon? Why is it? It's not just like losing 100 pounds or whatever it is. Like, that's fantastic. Like, that's great. Like, that's literally a burden lifted. But it's so much more than that. It's not even just the like, hey, I'm able to go get in the airplane without, feeling like I'm a huge burden to everyone and have to get a seatbelt extender, and I can get on a paddleboard and I can go ride it with my kids and play at the park with them. And I think what even deeper than that is that it really does change the story that people tell about themselves to themselves. And that's what's really cool, is that you have this different light on in people when they really get down this journey and they make some really good progress. And it's a journey. It is filled, like anyone, it's filled with some ups and downs, but it's so cool to see people like, yeah, I can make progress. I can see some success. So Robert, thanks for tuning in, Robert. Doing the research before the visit was a little overwhelming. You guys made the process so easy. Well, thank you, Robert. And yeah, it took a couple of years for me to make that call. Thanks for that comment a lot. It's so true. The data actually says that it's about 3 to 5 years from when you start thinking about weight loss surgery to when you actually like pick up the phone or, you put that thing in the email on the website. Hopefully that number is going down and down, just as there's more people out there that have had weight loss surgery and that have been successful. And so hopefully that's just continuing to make that more approachable for patients. But, and there's more resources available so that people can understand. And that's why we do stuff like this, to understand what these things are. But, yeah, it's a really cool tool. All right. Next topic here.
And just reach out. Like, if you come and see us for a visit, that's not like a contractual obligation by any means, right?
Absolutely.
Reach
You are
out.
by a lot of people think that like if you come and see us, like you're destined for this path. And that is like that's the farthest thing that we want to have to like push on people. Like we know we've done this a long time that it's not helpful to push a procedure on someone when they're not ready. Honestly, it's more of a headache for us. It is, because you're struggling, you're not happy, you're at risk for having some, stuff bad happen, like complications and stuff like that if you're not taking care of that thing. And it's just not worth it. It's not worth it from our standpoint. But we have seen this tool be so helpful for so many people and really life changing that we're not shy about that. I was like, yeah, it is. Like, look, I've seen, some version of your story likely like hundreds of times, and we can do some great work here. We're gonna have to be ready for it. We're gonna have to be willing to put the work in, but it can be fantastic. Yeah, really fantastic. But yeah, I tell that to people all the time, like, this is your timeline. This is we're gonna go at your speed, and I'll give my my experience, my expertise. But this is your life. This is your tool. So,
yeah. I mean, I feel like for me, I'm like, I've told patients before, if they don't feel confident, like I want you day of surgery to feel confident and feel ready and 100% like prepared. And if you feel less than that, then okay, you're not ready. Let's take some time. Maybe you need to do a couple more diet, nutrition visits. Maybe you need a couple more visits with me. Like, let's make sure that we're both 100% prepared when we go into this, because that's so important. So maybe that takes a couple extra months for some folks, and that's totally okay.
Yep.
That's totally okay.
It's like this balance though. It's like, cause you're like, well, some people feel like they need this thing to be perfect, right? They need to be coming to this thing absolutely perfect. And you're like none of us are ever perfect. Like even after surgery, you're not gonna be perfect.
That's true.
People that don't struggle with their weight aren't perfect either. Like,
yeah. I want you to feel confident, but no one in the history of bariatric surgery has gone in so prepared that they don't have surprises afterwards.
Exactly.
Like it's just life. There's no way.
Yeah.
So gotta take the weight too.
I mean, the best example of that is the spouses. So we do surgery on husband-wife combos like all the time. And frequently it's like, well, this, my wife went first and there wasn't, she didn't have any of these things that I have. Like, I didn't really think that was a thing, or this was a thing, or, whatever it was. Like, I didn't really think about this, and it's just like everyone's journey is a little bit different. That's why it's good to have a team that helps you kind of navigate all these little speed bumps, because it's new for you. And, but the nice thing is that like, generally all those things they're change and they're different from what you've been doing. But when you take a step back and you look at it like, oh, this is a healthy change. This is a really good change. And this is a change I'm really proud of. So, all right. Let's see. Are there things to do to prepare for your bariatric surgery consult? What should you expect the day of your consult? I know we kind of just hit a couple of these things. We do send out a little questionnaire for people to prepare for your bariatric surgery consult. And that just gives us a lot more information about you, so we can kind of streamline your visit. But if that's like that can be a huge burden, and it's really tedious. There's a lot of questions in there sometimes. And we've tried to pare it down to as few as possible. But, and sometimes the computer, like when you submit it and there's issues, whatever, that should, like, if you don't do your questionnaire, we can work with that. We're going to be fine. We're happy to hold your hand through that part of the journey. And, we're going to get through. Struggling with your weight is really tough. And, the questionnaire shouldn't be the biggest thing holding you back. That is not going to be we'll make sure that that's not a big issue for us long term. Yeah. So, but otherwise, I think just kind of like, if you watch some YouTube videos, if you write down, honestly, probably the best thing is to actually write down your questions and write down the concerns that you have that you want addressed, so that you can know when you finish that visit, you're like, okay, here's all the things that I was scared about and I was worried about and I had reservations about, and we addressed those and we talked about them, and now I can reflect on those.
Yeah. I think you can come into that visit with as prepared or unprepared as you would like to be. I think like knowing your medications, that is helpful for us so that we can kind of sort through that. I think also something is if you have a spouse or a friend who's like very involved and is going to be like your support person, we always welcome that person being there for you during that visit. You know, I had someone recently who her friend was literally there taking notes for her, and I just thought that was the sweetest thing. Like, I think that is awesome. We absolutely welcome that. I think that's an awesome thing to have if you can during the day of your visit. So, but yeah, I think you can be as prepared or unprepared. Another thing that I find sometimes primary care doctors are very like eager about getting you to your bariatric surgeon, and they try to do some work, including lab work ahead of time. It is okay if you don't do that lab work because we have very specific lab work that we typically get. And it might save you a poke of a lab draw, maybe, if you just wait until your visit. So
we'll still use the labs. We won't repeat the labs you
Yes.
have drawn, but you'll probably need a couple other ones.
You'll probably need another poke. So
probably a few more we need to add to it. So yeah, that's a good question. Also, I think to expect the day of your consult. So we do visits in person at our office in Shoreline. We also do person visits telemedicine. So I'd say the vast majority of our practice is telemedicine. We have a very sizable amount of our patients are like 30% plus are actually more than 3 hours away. And so that space, you know, the distance between where people are, you know, telemedicine has just made this so much more approachable. And has made it really cool because then we could, after your procedure or whatever, you know, like, or if even beforehand you're struggling to understand things or get prepared, you're like, I don't know, I'm struggling with this or that. I have questions. I'm scared. Like, we can just make more visits. It's easy. Like, you just take 15, 20 minutes after you're out of your time, and you go sit in your car and, you know, we can sort things out and keep moving forward. So, and because people, you know, it's great. It's great. There's so many people out there need help. There's 140 million Americans with obesity. 140 million. That's a staggering number. So it's great that we can continue doing telehealth for this. So, what are the important things patients should do to prepare in the run-up to surgery? That's a good question. So you have it, let's say, so like you did your consult. Oh, let's say, okay, I was going to reach out. Okay, I did it. I did that consult. I met these people. Oh, they weren't so bad. They actually were pretty nice. And everyone, honestly, we really pride ourselves on trying to have everyone in our operation be really, really nice to patients. That is the way we would want to be treated. And that's absolutely the standard we expect from ourselves and to treat our patients. So you do your consult and you're like, oh, wow, this is great. I can't believe this is, there's hope for me and I'm going to do this. Now, what do I do?
Yeah. So, well, there's a couple. So there's, okay. So there's things that I, as your surgeon, want you to do, right? And that's like lab work. Sometimes I want an EKG. Sometimes I might want an endoscopy, which is a separate procedure in and of itself. There might be imaging that we want to do. It's a little variable for everyone. Everyone also needs to do nutrition visits, which I always tell everyone, those are the most important visits out of everything that we do. Everyone thinks that the visit with the surgeon is the most important visit. I don't think the visit with me is the most important visit.
Me cut good.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I always tell patients that I'm like, this is not the most important visit. Actually, if you forget everything I told you, like, you'll probably be fine. But the nutrition visits are the most important visits. And then we typically have a psychology visit as well, which is not as scary as it sounds. It's really more for you to learn what some of the mental changes might be after surgery. But it's not a test, I would say.
Yeah, but, no, a lot of people are like, psych assessment. Like, I'm kind of crazy. It's like all of us are kind of crazy. Like, yeah. Honestly, the bar for getting over that one is real low.
Yeah. And it's really, I think, they do a lot of good teaching about things like transfer addiction and things like that. But I think, so it's more for you as a patient than anything else. But those are kind of the hard things that I call them hard things, like hard things to do before surgery. Some of the softer things that I have patients start doing is start eating smaller, more frequent meals and start practicing that. You don't have to be perfect about it, but I think this is particularly true for people who have really busy lives, which is most people. But figuring out like what time of the day can you take a little break for yourself and actually eat something, which is a little bit harder said than done for most folks because, again, we're so busy. But we're going to want you to eat 5 to 6 meals a day. And they're not full-blown meals after surgery, but when are those times where you can actually stop, put that in your calendar and actually just like eat a little bit,
Yeah.
That's tricky. And then measuring portions, start measuring your portions out now. Start learning that as well. Most of us are not very cognizant about our portion sizes.
What portion do you recommend people start with?
So 3/4 of a cup. Well, that's for after surgery. Before surgery, I just tell them just measure. If you're eating 2 cups of food right now, that's okay. But just measure and know that that's 2 cups, right? Just get into that habit more so than anything.
2 cups, yeah. You're much more generous than I am.
Well, but that's before surgery. That's before surgery,
Yeah. I usually tell people, even before surgery, I'm like, if you can try to be at 1 cup, you're not going to succeed all the time. Like, especially in the dinner meal, Mike, because your stomach actually actively relaxes more in the evening. But I try to do 1 cup, and I say you're not going to be successful, but this is a good thing to like just practice and break it up. So, yeah. But your approach of just like measuring period is just really good. Got to start somewhere, and that measuring is so helpful. It's so helpful. Yeah.
I think like the more you can do that mimics what your life is going to be like after surgery, the easier recovery is going to be. And so if you can kind of start simulating that, that's ideal. The other really big thing that I talk about from day one is what's your drinking style? Like, are you a gulper? Are you a chugger? Because that's actually the hardest habit to break. You can't gulp, you can't chug after surgery anymore. So let's kind of push you towards, everyone needs to become a sipper by the time surgery hits. So.
Yes. Practice that. Yeah. Practice that.
Start practicing now.
What's your thoughts on tracking?
I actually I don't talk about tracking during my visits.
I should say, I'll define tracking as like tracking calories and macros, like protein, fat, carbs on like an app or like writing it down in a log. That's what I meant.
I think it's really important to track after surgery, especially initially. And in particular, I want you to be tracking your protein. So it's something that you certainly should start practicing as well before surgery. I don't routinely talk about, I know the nutritionists go over it, so I don't want to go through too much stuff in that first visit. But I think tracking is really important. And no one likes tracking. No one likes tracking. And it's not something that I tell my patients that you have to do forever either. But when you are first learning a new habit and learning a new eating style, which is exactly what you're doing after surgery, it's actually incredibly important. I find people are awful at remembering like what they ate. And I don't remember what I had for breakfast. I don't know what I had for dinner last night, And so it just kind of brings a little bit more attention to things, and it actually kind of keeps you accountable in some ways. But then once you get into the habit, you don't necessarily have to track. But then if you kind of fall off course, that's when it's important to start tracking again, kind of bring you back on course.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. Actually, got a good comment right here from Judy on Instagram. Thanks for your question or your comment and question, Judy. You're out from surgery.
I think it's Jody.
Oh, Jody, you're totally right. Yeah. You can see my comments? I didn't know you could see my comments. That's cool.
Well, I'm actually watching the stream on my phone. So a little bit of a cheater move.
Nice. It's just multimedia. You're technologically advanced. I'm sorry, Jody. So you're out from surgery. Can you reset your stomach? I can eat 18 to 20 ounces. I'm not losing weight anymore. Good question, Jody. And okay. Sorry, I didn't recognize you, Jody. And excellent. So thank you for your comment. This is a very common thing where people are like, hey, I'm not losing weight anymore. I feel like my portion size are getting a little bit bigger. I'm scared. What do I do? This is the time where, okay. So let's start with just the stomach itself. The stomach is a smooth muscle that's, this tube. And any muscle can stretch, right? You can, like when you're stretching your hamstrings or, your any sort of muscles like that. And there's a certain limit where your body, where it stretches, and it has these little spring nerves in it. And actually, as those stretch out, they actually send signals to your body and say, we're stretching too much, we gotta stop. And the way that we feel restriction in your stomach is that those stretch receptors stretch, and then they send signals to your brain saying, hey, we're stretching, you gotta stop eating, we're full. Ixnay on the food nay. And a lot of people really depend on that stretching sensation from their stomach to tell them when to stop eating. That's a pretty natural survival instinct for almost all of human history, to eat as much as you possibly can every chance you get a chance. But in the modern world, when obesity is a thing, that's something we got to really work on kind of retraining our body towards. The nice thing is the same thing that your stomach's a smooth muscle, is that it naturally wants to tighten things up. Like it naturally wants to actually get a little bit tighter. And so if you can dial down your portion sizes to that 3/4 cup size, I think the 3/4 cup size, like you were saying, Dr. Tan, I really do think that's the sweet spot long-term, where you do smaller, more frequent amounts at longer intervals. That 3/4 cup size is not meant to be your full stretching restriction point. It's not at all. Like that's not the point at all. Where that is like, I kind of want that to be, if you think of your stomach as like a gas tank, and if you like go to get close to full, you're like, oh boy, we're getting close. And then you're spilling over and like, oh, this is not good. This is embarrassing and painful. Where I want that 3/4 cup mark to be is hopefully like in the, probably a little bit short of 3/4 full actually of your stomach, of what your stomach can actually handle and be, from a max capacity standpoint. And the point of being in that smaller portion size is actually that with time, those muscles will naturally tighten up and they'll get smaller. And you can actually get more feeling and actually feel a little bit more restriction at smaller portion sizes over time. It will take time. Generally, I think of in the amount of time that it kind of took us to get here, it will take at least that much time to get back with consistently keeping that smaller portion size. The other thing that I say when people are stuck losing weight is we got to get back to when your weight loss sort of stalls. We're like, hey, I really would like to continue losing more weight. Let's get back to the basics, the measuring your portion sizes. And then with measuring, we can also get to tracking, because, weight loss really is the adage of calories in, calories out, right? Is a huge oversimplification of weight loss, but it's not wrong in the sense of you can't lose weight if you're not in a calorie deficit. And if you're not losing weight and you're really struggling with a bunch of things, the first thing we need to know is like how much calories you're taking. And what your other macros are, like your protein and your carbs and your fats. And then once we know those, then we can say, okay, let's try to restructure this and get to some different numbers here to really start getting our weight loss to be more successful, and also helping you feel a little bit better and feeling healthier in general. So honestly, the first thing I would do, Jody, is reach out and just say, hey, I'm struggling here. How do I get back on track? And that is like there's not a lot of things I can guarantee in life, except that at some point, every single one of us is going to be like, okay, yep, not going in a good direction here. Time to get this thing back on track. So, and that's where we kind of say, okay, where are we doing? How are we doing? Here's kind of our new goals: portion size. Here's our new goals, calorie wise. And I tell this to people all the time, like my goal for people isn't that you have to track your food and, measure your portion sizes like fastidiously for every meal of the rest of your life. But having a season of doing that regularly is really important if we're trying to make some changes and get into a new routine, and to try to build that sort of new patterns and new structures and new habits. So, so I think there's still tons of hope. There's still lots of stuff we can do. We're going to keep battling, Jody. So reach out. Robert, get caught up in his comment too. Great comment here. Also be prepared for costs. What are the insurance qualifiers? What amount they cover and co-pays? Even after approval, there were costs I hadn't considered, and they can add up for sure. Yeah, that's something we do try to give people as much of a heads up on that, and give them an idea of like what their deductible is, how much of their deductible that they've used. We really work hard to try to, most people use up most of their deductible on their run up to surgery. So we try to get them in the calendar year, that meaning before December 31st. So that they can, not have as much cost as possible. It's a good reminder that if you want to do that this year, and you want insurance to cover it, you probably got to get on that now. It's actually surprising how quickly the time runs out if you have a supervised diet or something like that. And yeah, so we really try to make this work for as many people as possible cost wise. We try to give you a heads up as much as we can, but yeah, making sure you kind of go into it with eyes wide open of, what the realistic stuff is that's going to be involved, including the money part, is what's going to set you up for, success and have the journey be as smooth as possible. And Robert says, I was really happy that your staff walked through all the costs and even handled all the insurance paperwork. That's what we're here for, man. You know it. So yeah, our goal with our team and our organization is really just to treat people the way we would want to be treated and to really deliver premium care and be caring and nice and, and have a lot of expertise. So, thank you, Jody. Have people done sleeve and a second surgery? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. People have done other procedures to kind of keep them going, maybe tune up the procedure that you've had. There's lots of different things you can do when you're struggling and you're like, hey man, I just really want to make some more progress. And there's this part that may be going, I don't like this as much. And is that, so it's not overdoing it at all. It's just saying, hey, what are all the options in front of us? And this is what I tell people when people are struggling and there's maybe even you're like, oh, my portion sizes are getting big, blah, blah, blah. And I say, okay, here's the data pieces that we know. Here's maybe a few more data pieces that we need to collect. And then we say, here are the options on the table for helping you make some more progress, which is let's get the nutrition piece dialed in. We always want to do that no matter what, right? What is your activity level doing? How's your stress? How's your sleep? Let's get all those things better. That's going to make your life better no matter what. No matter what we do from here on out, getting that stuff better for all of us is a win. And then we say, hey, maybe medication is appropriate for you. Maybe an endoscopic procedure to tune things up. Maybe a laparoscopic procedure to tune things up or to revise you to a different surgery. Here's the kind of pluses and minuses of each of these sort of therapies. And we don't have to do any of them right now. So what do you think? And where do you want to go from here? Honestly, we're in no rush on that one for sure. So yep, this is a journey and weight is really, really hard in the modern era. Our bodies are not made to live in comfortable climate controlled houses with running water and electricity and cars that drive themselves and sedentary jobs. Yeah. So, all right, more questions here. Rinshot, can you tell the type of bariatric surgeries done nowadays? And what are the complications of bariatric surgeries? Great question. So a couple different types of procedures. Dr. Tan, you want to talk about these ones?
Yeah, different bariatric procedures.
Yep.
Yeah, let's go through them. So, let's start with the big two bariatric surgeries. That's the sleeve gastrectomy and the gastric bypass. Those are going to be probably the most commonly performed two bariatric surgeries done today. The sleeve is actually the most popular now. Sleeve, we're taking out 80% of the stomach. These are all done minimally invasively right now. So they're all little incisions that you're having. You're having multiple little incisions rather than one big incision. And the sleeve, we're taking out most of the stomach. So we're taking out a very hormonally active part of your stomach out. And it's also limiting the amount of food that goes into your stomach at one time. The bypass, on the other hand, a little bit more complicated. There's a couple more steps in terms of what we're doing. It is the OG bariatric surgery. Like this one is the one that we've been doing for a very long time.
Since the 60s.
Yeah. It is also done minimally invasively. And what we're doing with that, we turn your stomach into a very small egg-sized pouch. We bypass most of your stomach and the first portion of your small intestine. Then we reconnect everything so it kind of is in a Y configuration. Food goes through one limb of the Y, and then food bypasses the other limb of the Y. So it not only limits how much food goes into your stomach at one time, it also limits absorption of that food. Comparing the two, bypass takes a little bit longer. It's a little bit more involved, so the complication rate's a little bit higher with the bypass compared to the sleeve. The bypass tends to be a little bit better for some folks when it comes to diabetes. And the bypass also tends to be a little bit better for some folks in terms of reflux issues as well. And so that's kind of the breakdown between the two. We'd obviously go into a little bit more detail during a discussion with you about picking one versus the other. And then we also have the endoscopic sleeve gastroplasty, which is something that we offer, where you go in through the mouth, into the esophagus, into the stomach. And then we do everything internally and kind of scrunch up your stomach. So the inside of your stomach looks like a sleeve.
Stomach scrunchy.
A stomach scrunchie. Yeah, it's a scrunchy procedure. So
No, it's cool.
I call it the incisionless sleeve. You don't have incisions with that, which is very cool.
I just saw a patient yesterday. She's lost almost 110 pounds with that.
That is very cool.
BMI 35 to 21.
Dang, that's good.
Her body fat percentage was the same as mine.
Wow, that's so good.
Yeah.
That's so exciting. That's awesome.
Yeah, she's crushing it. She's very happy. So, complications wise. So, each of those complications, I would say, has the usual issues of surgery. Pain, discomfort, generally very manageable with these surgeries. We try to do nerve block. We do nerve blocks, the laparoscopic surgeries that try to block a lot of the pain, actually. So it's really very manageable. Still some discomfort. It feels kind of like a pulled muscle in your abdominal wall. That's what it feels like. It feels like you had a really good workout and you got some really sore abs. That, really lets you know when you move around. Infection. So if you get an infection from one of the incisions, knock on wood, haven't gotten one of those for myself or in Dr. Tan in years. Like it's been over 2 years since we've had a skin infection. A leak. So that's on the inside. Let's say like where like a piece of the stomach or intestine starts leaking out. This is a very feared complication. And knock on wood, one I've never had actually in the 5 years that I've been here for a non, complex, crazy revision thing. And yeah, it's very, very low percentage in general. So, in our practice, it's like less than, honestly, our last leak was like 8 years ago with surgeons that are no longer here actually. So, yeah, it's been a long time since we've seen one of those, but that's something we always watch out for. It's something we're always cognizant. Every surgery we're doing, we're trying to make sure we don't get one of those. A bleed. So anytime you're doing surgery and anything, right, stuff can bleed. And our rate of that is less than 0.05%, 0.04%. But anytime, there's any sort of maybe even risk for that, we watch those things really carefully. We address those, and usually we've never had someone bleed out and die from that or have serious complications. We have had a couple people that have over the 5 years that I've been here that have had to go and get an operation to stop the bleeding, but the chances of that are they're very, very, very low. Yeah, very, very low. So and then blood clots. Blood clots, I think, are the ones that every surgeon hates the most, honestly, because we can't fix a blood clot with surgery. We just kind of give some medication and we try to ride it out. So our complication rate with blood clots is also less than 0.5% still. But we take a lot of precautions to try to prevent these things. So all in all, our total complication rate for serious complications is 0.7%. So if you think about that, like in the sense of a deck of cards, like if you have a deck of cards, right, 52 cards, that you're like, okay, one of these is a serious complication. You would have to stack 4 decks of cards and shuffle them together, and then one of those is a serious complication in there that you have. And thankfully, knock on wood, even when something really doesn't go the way we want it to, we can, we have all the tools and the expertise to get people out of it. So, and get them through. On that happy note, right? All right, Strawberry Tweety. I did my sleeve with surgery with Aviva a year ago. I'm stuck in my weight. What can I do? But I have lost almost 100 pounds.
Congrats.
High five, ST. So I would say this is a time where, of course, losing 100 pounds is fantastic, but when you still have more to go, it's that extra work is going to take some additional extra work as well. And so that's where really dialing in, reaching out to the team. Honestly, don't do this alone. You do not have to struggle alone. We're here for you. We got a lot of resources. We got a lot of different ideas. If the idea we had initially advised isn't really working, you come back, you say, okay, let's change tack. Let's go a different direction. Let's try this. Let's try that. I always start with the basics of nutrition-wise, which is make sure we're back to measuring, make sure we're back to tracking so we know where we're at. Let's try to activity-wise, let's try to get 7,500 steps a day. And 3 days a week, we're doing exercise where you're like, exercise being like your body is under stress, it's uncomfortable, your muscles are tired, you're breathing hard, your heart rate's going fast. And then sleep. Make sure you're getting sleep and that you're managing your stress. You're not super stressed all the time. You don't have to work on these things alone. We are absolutely here for you with those 100%. If inside of that stuff, you're still like, yeah, I know I need a little bit of edge to overcome this, and as much help as I can get to really be successful. Absolutely. That's why we're here. That's why we exist. That's why modern medicine is what it is. And so we have medications. Maybe there's other surgeries that procedures we can talk about. But most likely it's going to be in the realm of like, hey, let's like circle back. Let's double down on some of these nutrition and other, behavioral things. And also maybe let's talk about medication, because the medications are getting really good. They're really nice to work with the surgeries too. We're seeing some really exciting stuff with surgery plus medication now. And the medication amount that you need is much, much, much less. The side effects seem to be much more manageable. And it really helps people keep going. I mean, we got people that are 10 plus years out now getting to their lowest weights ever, which is super cool. Super, super cool. So great. Thank you for your question, Strawberry. Rinshad, thank you again for another comment here. Are these surgeries safe in immunocompromised patients? And what if there is associated stomach tumor? What is next? What is the next step? Hey, great question. Really good question. Immunocompromised patients. So becomes a patient by patient basis. There are almost surgical complications can go up if you're severely immunocompromised. And that could be a number of different things. If your immune system isn't really functioning very well, either because you have to even take medications like steroids or other medications to suppress your immune system, or let's say you have like, other rare genetic issues or, history of leukemia or whatever it is, that your immune system just doesn't work as well, then we got to be really careful at what we're doing, and we got to have a plan for the medication management and things like that. But generally, these things, and it's a case by case basis of what's going to be the safety margin that we have there. But yeah, absolutely, this is still an option on the table. 100%. You should have a conversation with someone like a bariatric surgeon like us. And yeah, these are great tools. And as someone was saying the other day, they're like, there's almost no situation. There's very, very few situations where doing one of these, there's one of these procedures that is going to significantly make people's lives better. It may not fix all your problems, but it will significantly improve it, even if you have other health issues. It almost never makes health issues worse. Almost never. And then associated stomach tumor. Great question. So it depends on where the stomach tumor is. If it's, say, like on the outer edge of the part where we're going to take off with the sleeve stomach, that's a wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. Like that's a twofer, that's a win-win right there. That gets an extra high five in the operating room right there when we're done with that one. So it kind of just depends on where it is and what we need to plan around. If it's maybe somewhere else in the stomach, maybe you just talk about, hey, maybe we need to switch to a gastric bypass so that we can take out this stomach tumor when it's there and then go from there. So Dr. Tan, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a very specialized discussion. Certainly we have to be careful around immunocompromised patients, but there's different kind of flavors of immunocompromised as well. So something to definitely chat about. But and then the stomach tumor, yeah, like where it is important, and what type of tumor obviously is very important as well. So again, something that we can kind of work through when you chat with us for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've taken out a number of stomach tumors that we found on the day of surgery. So we go in, we're looking at surgery, and it's like, oh, dang, this is a tumor. Like usually it's a GIST, which is a gastrointestinal stromal tumor. There's like, this looks like a GIST, it smells like a GIST, feels like a GIST. I just don't have, microscopic eyes to confirm that. And then thankfully they've always been in the specimen of stuff that we're going to take off. And like I've cured a couple people of cancer, which is sweet, So yeah. I had one GIST tumor that had a little bit of tumor on the staple line still. So that patient ended up having to get like a course of chemotherapy, but has since done well from everything I've heard. And it has been several years. But yeah, no, it's absolutely, this could be absolutely a great chance to hit two birds with one stone. Thanks for your comment, Rinshaw. All right. We're at 55 minutes here.
Yeah, and I have a visit coming up, so.
Yeah, likewise. So really appreciate everyone's comments and tuning in and watching. And we're really looking forward to doing more of these. When's our, Dr. Dan, remind me, when's our next one of these we got coming up?
It is probably, we're doing them about every 2 weeks or so. So it's going to be in the next 2 weeks.
Great.
But we'll kind of post it on all our social media. Make sure everyone's aware.
If you have questions, other questions that come up during this time, leave them down in the comments somewhere, and we'll hopefully find them. And then we'd love to address more of these on our future ones. We'll try to address them too, but we'd love hearing what people want to talk about and what the questions and the themes that we want to discuss. So
DM us, so to speak. As the kids would say.
Indeed. Yeah. Sliding into the DMs. So. Except for all those jokers earlier with their comments, like those can.
All right.
So cool. All right, everybody. Thank you again for tuning in, and we're here for you. Have a great day.
Bye.